dilemma in public discussion is you usually have to have something on the table to start the conversation. So the planning board started the conversation by putting this on the table. And there may be other models that we want to look at. We're not going to settle everything tonight. There's also another non-used committee, I think it's called the Development Cabinet, but it was supposed to have representatives from different neighborhoods and different disciplines on it to advise the city government too. So there are some other models that have been looked at in the 70s and early 80s that we might want to look at. But I'm going to come back to the goal. Do we have a consensus that whoever that group is their job to recommend zoning changes back to the appropriate authorities?
Yeah.
Are we in agreement on that? And those zoning changes should be consistent with the map and the other recommendations of Sustainable Northampton, right? That should be, and then the elected and appointed officials are the ones who say yay or nay to those, right? Is that right? Okay. Well, I'm just trying to see where we have consensus. So it sounds like we have consensus on that, and we have consensus on the idea that it should be a broader-based committee than just appointed elected officials. Councilor Bardsley's put out. Is there another model that we may have that might be an interesting model? And that's a conversation we could have now. We have about, I'd say about 20 minutes. So, well, actually, we're about 30 minutes. So.
The rest of you only is 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Oh, yeah. When's your meeting start?
7.
Okay, so we have about.
We have to get upstairs.
Right.
So
Yeah, right. Well, what time is it? What's the middle?
20 minutes is plenty.
I mean, the other thing is you don't have to make a decision tonight. No, we don't have, some people could go away and collaborate with each other on some different ideas of how to move this forward. It would be helpful. There were a couple planning board people and a couple councilors who wanted to work on an ad hoc basis to think about how to put this together. That's another way to think about it. Yeah.
I guess one of the scary things when we were developing this plan was, how we assigned to different groups tasks of fulfilling each task, and it seemed like the planning board was getting an awful lot of those ones. And when we were developing this, it was a time when we were in meetings till like 1 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that. And it's only probably like in the last couple of months that we've actually slowed down a bit. So
Does it have to do with the recession?
possibly. But who knows? But I know that's someone in my time on the board we've struggled with finding time just to do planning. I could probably count on both hands the number of meetings that we've had on planning type stuff over the last 5 or 6 years just because of the pressure. So, I don't necessarily want to be going to additional meetings, and I kind of like that, not just because of that, but I kind of like the idea of potentially pulling in some fresh minds. But to at least be involved. I don't know to what extent, just off the top of my head, but I think, definitely. You don't want a big group of people. You want lots of people to be involved, but you don't want the core group to be too large,
Is there some benefit to having a liaison to the council and the planning board on that? If you took that model, and I understand the idea of no elected officials, but there also is some benefit to understanding what the processes are on both of the, on the council and on the planning board. And sort of that discussion you've had in the past, there is value to those people who've been serving on things like city council for many years, and to, or even not so many years, or the planning board that may add value to that process. So it may be something to think about.
plus they would bring the perspective of people who actually were intimately involved in the process. So that quite often some of this stuff you go, well, what were they thinking? And if there's someone there who can give some insight.
There was actually a thought or two involved.
Yeah. To clarify.
Well, I served on both the CAC and the Sustainability Steering Committee, and I certainly have some misgivings about having a committee that large. And the CAC was extremely polarized, and we would have people representing extremely narrow points of interest, practically to the death. The Sustainability Plan people, we usually end up, I must have been 20-some people on the committee, and there usually about 10 people per meeting.
It's hard to keep a big group together.
37 is the number. And
Yeah. It's
really,
very hard.
I would like to work with people that at least have a bigger picture in mind, besides representing their own particular point of view.
But I think that's what Councilor Bartley, I think, was saying. I don't wanna read into what he was saying, but the councilor's job would be to try to find those people that Catherine was referring to. Those people that are looking from a bigger picture, and not necessarily a parochial point of view. That's what I heard you say.
Right.
Right?
But in the terms of slowing down the process, if you slow it down too much, people are gonna get bored and stay away from
That, I
the meeting.
think that's true. Yeah, Councilor.
Would you use a best practice committee on this?
Well, I think that's, I think the best practice committee can give input into any process that they wanna give input into. But I also, I want you all to think about what's the role of the best practice committee? Do you have them vet everything that you do? Or do they come out with some recommendations after they go through their process that can inform everything people do in a different way? I think that's important. You all need to think
I've
about
been
it.
watching every one of the committees, and I find out sometimes I bog down,
Yeah,
and, that's the only thing I'm scared of. But, I just made that as a suggestion to listen to everybody.
I think there may be some benefit to having the best practice committee have a discussion about this. I also think there may be some benefit for some councilors who are interested in this question and some planning board members who are interested in this question, having a discussion and see if they come forward with a proposal. Yes.
I think it'd be political wisdom in letting the best practices committee take this over. We've had difficulties in the past with the planning board with issues that the public doesn't feel we've been public enough about. And the whole idea of forming the best practices committee was to try to help that process.
I didn't understand the best practice committee as something that vetted every single decision that any elected or appointed board made, and correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're correct.
Okay, I'd be careful about that, Pat, that's all.
Yeah, I wanna clarify, I never had in mind that the best practices committee would take over anything, but it would be more of advising and giving suggestions, especially if there is a concern about maintaining and increasing credibility with the general public and getting people to trust and buy into a process, because I think there's been a lot of decisions that have been unpopular because of the process. And if we want to kind of address that, I think perhaps the best practice committee could have an opportunity to make some general suggestions or come up with a general protocol. I don't know, I can't speak, I'm speaking for them, I'm speaking as an individual, but I think one of the reasons, if there's been a perception that sometimes we have been bogged down, I think there's having a concrete task is a great way to get people moving. And so if we were to take that on, I think it would be more of, here are some points, 5 to 6 points to consider, as opposed to taking over a process.
The three of the members of the committee are sitting here. That would be your group and the council.
And a couple more are in the audience.
Yeah, making recommendations, and what I'm suggesting is, you don't have to make a decision tonight. Go away, the public's gonna have input, take input. That is the way the process works ultimately, is that we have a discussion in the room and people hear the discussion, and they give input, and people change what their point of view is, or refine their point of view, and ultimately come back with a decision that the council and the planning board jointly can agree on.
Would it be, the best practices committee that would say research how other towns, cities of similar size have dealt with this problem?
I'm gonna turn to the people who made it up. My understanding is that they're not giving marching orders to various committees on how to run their business. Is that right?
Well, no, I
So-
wasn't thinking of marching orders, I was thinking more that part of the wisdom has probably been invented in other cities of what works, what has worked well, and I'm just wondering how to access that prior knowledge or experience.
And much of that wisdom is on the internet.
Right.
It is on the best practice part of the city's website. There are links to a dozen different models for ways to deal with kinds of issues. They're not all about zoning,
Right.
but they're all about getting lots of input, and they're really helpful.
There's a couple different pieces here. One is the membership, and then it's the process, whatever the membership of this committee uses to get input from everybody as they make decisions, which then they don't make final decisions, they get recommended to decision-making bodies.
I guess that's what I was recommending, that the best practices committee make recommendations on membership. It seems to be the stumbling block, the structure of the body that we need to get moving on this.
I guess I don't agree, Ken. I don't think it's a stumbling block. I think you're in the middle of the discussion. That's all, you know? Yeah, I don't think I think you have to, the discussion is ongoing. Councilor Bardsley made a proposal. There's a discussion here that might work. I think people may need to go away and have some discussions about what might work.
I agree with the mayor. I'm seeing this as more of a brainstorming session, throwing in a lot of different ideas, and then let's think about it some more, and then come back at it another time, or maybe a counter proposal and focus on it.
Or a couple of different proposals
Yeah.
that people think might work. Yeah.
Well, one of my proposals then is that the best practices committee takes this on as a task, and I think as you said, Michael, that often helps to gel a committee. They have an actual project to work on. I think if we want to,
They have
Move,
a
but-
charge from the council.
So we have a charge, and this is not out of keeping with
I
the
want
charge.
to make sure you all agree on that.
Well,
but if we wanna really use the sustainability plan to kind of sift some of the perceived dynamics in the city, this might be a place to get their that would be a proposal to think of, that they take it on as a project, something concrete to bite into and say, this would be a very clear and open way for the city to
It's
get into.
okay with me. I just
Yeah.
know that there was a vote here on a specific charge that had timeline, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's all I'm reacting to. There was a very specific
Well-
charge given to that.
what I would be willing to do, and is our next meeting, raise the proposal as a new business, and to see how the rest of the committee, so the committee could have an official discussion to see how they think the best practices committee could help assist in the forming of this. Because I do think that there is some potential influence or overlap in there. So just to give it the forum, an opportunity for discussion.